What was your "oh shit my life is over my parents are gonna kill me" moment you had as a child/teen? I put my cheap gel pens in a microwave when I was 11 because they wouldn't work and my teacher told me that it's because the ink was frozen. Let's say I had to work extra that summer so I could get a new microwave. For a month I kept taking the internet cord from my parents' room and running it to the living room, plugging it in the TV box. I was washing the dishes when my dad started reading out the porn titles on the bill. As a 2000s kid, stories like these always fascinate me. Same. We were there, but not actually there. Every single day my mom told me to be careful near the frozen pond next to our house. One day enough snow melted in order for my friends and I to play soccer in the field next to the pond. As you can guess, at one point the ball ended up dead center in the middle of the pond on the ice. My child brain figured if I could throw a stick on the ice, it was safe to walk on. So after making sure the ice was stable by throwing not one but two sticks, I started my walk to get the ball. It was like a scene from a movie. I reached the center and the second I picked up the ball and attempted to turn around I fell straight through the ice and went under. I had to break the ice the entire way back to shore and had my clothes dried at a friend's house a few blocks away. By the time I got there I thought I was on my deathbed, but I could never tell my mom I was dumb enough to go out there or she would have probably killed me. I'm now 26 and have still never told my parents I did that, lol. This story takes place in the mid-90s. I was 16, skipping school out fucking around in my car with friends. Took a turn too fast and put the car in a ditch. We got the car out of the ditch with the help of a passerby. Not a scratch on it by some fucking miracle. Get home and dad asks, "So how was school?" in a way that told me he knew full well I wasn't at school. If there is one thing my father instilled in me, it is this: no matter how bad you fuck up, lying about it will only make it worse. Own up, take your punishment and don't do it again. So I told him exactly what happened. He couldn't really take the car away. I'd purchased it from him for full trade-in value, out of money I'd saved from working at a pizza joint, but he found other ways to make my life a living hell for a few months after that. Come to find out, the good Samaritan who helped us out of the ditch was a co-worker of my dad who recognized the car and had called dad to let him know about my adventures. I was 17. Drove my girlfriend home from school. We ended up in the shower together. Just as we turned off the water and she was stepping out, we hear her dad open the front door of the house. Of course my truck is in the driveway so he knows I'm there, but I'm nowhere else in the house obviously. My short life flashed before my eyes. He came stomping down the hallway and banged on the bathroom door. My girlfriend, wrapped in a towel, answered the door and lead her ass off. Spanx is down the street at one of our friends' house. I told him I'd call when I was out of the shower. Meanwhile, I'm standing frozen and shriveled in the shower behind the curtain preparing to meet the hereafter. Married that girl. Been together 26 years. Also, my wife is a preacher's kid. Her dad was one of my two pastors growing up. First time ever getting drunk. 14 years old. Had a bottle of rum and 4 Mike Hard lemonades all mixed into a big jug. Came home that night. My mom just looked at me and knew. She didn't get mad. She just said, "Okay Corey, let's go to bed. It's alright. Let's go." I went to bed. The next day she made me go to school on that ridiculous hangover. That was my punishment. But she always said to me later in life, "What's the point in me yelling at you? You were drunk. There's absolutely nothing that I can do." When I was 6, I spilled grape juice on the tan carpet in the living room. I put a pillow over it, laid on the pillow, and vowed that I would stay there the rest of my life so my parents would never find out. I lasted about 45 minutes. My mom was more upset that I got grape juice on the pillow rather than the carpet. When I was 28 I spilled a gallon of house paint on my basement carpet. We put a rug over it. You had a solid plan. I have 3 older brothers. The 2 oldest put the youngest one's head through the wall. They tried to plaster it and it looked horrible so they put a poster over it. The 2 oldest told the youngest, "Shh, don't tell mom, it's a surprise for her." Mom gets home from work. Youngest screams, "Mom, we have a surprise for you." Getting pulled over by 3 police cars for doing 70 in a 45. My dad happened to call as I was talking with the officers. They asked to speak with him. After a few minutes they handed the phone back and said, "You better go home." That is going to be worse than the ticket we are giving you. That was a whole lot of yelling at home. You only got a ticket for doing 70 in a 45. They didn't actually get a speed reading on me. It was only estimated. When I came home to tell them that my girlfriend was pregnant for Thanksgiving of my freshman year of college, turkey wasn't the only thing stuffed that year. When I was about 8, my sister, 10, and I used to play around the neighborhood with other kids, but we had to be home by 8 p.m. or when the street lights came on, whichever came first. We had a watch on, and every evening my mum would make sure that we had one with us and it was working. One evening we were 20 minutes late. And it was the second time that week. If we were late twice in a week, we weren't allowed to go out the rest of the week. My sister and I were talking by the back garden gate, making up excuses why we were late and making sure we were both on the same page in case she questioned us. We opened the gate to go inside and my mum was standing on the other side of the gate, arms folded. That was a life flashed before my eyes moment. So we live in a two-story colonial. My parents are away on vacation. I'm in the yard and tossing a baseball up in the air and catching it. Just a 9-year-old entertaining myself. I think to myself, hey, let's loft it onto the first split level roof and then it'll roll off and I'll catch it. Second toss, crash, shatter sister's window. Grandma was babysitting. Grandma reported, I was smoked. Your grandma snitched on you. Parents heard that my girlfriend was pregnant. She wasn't. From mutual friends of his and my girlfriend's parents. Dad and I had a long talk. Edit. My girlfriend thought she was pregnant. She told her parents. They told a friend. The friend to my parents. Dad told me. Edit 2. This was in 1979. I skipped school by leaving the house, climbing on the garage and waiting for my mum to leave. I jumped down to let myself in as she drove off and set myself up for a day on my PS1. She then came back as she'd forgotten something and I wanted to die in a hole. The yelling was something to behold. Didn't do that again. That reminds me of my friend. He decided he wanted to skip school. However, his mom stayed home all day. He and our other friend decided to hide under the porch of another friend of ours. They played cards under that porch the entire school day because everyone on the street knew everyone. Personally, that sounds boring and I'm glad I went to school. Yeah, but now they have a cool funny story about that day. Was driving home early in the morning after a night of playing games at a friend's. I was going too fast on an icy road, lost control of my car and ended up 40 yards into an icy, flooded field, car filled with water. I was 16 and had gotten my license just a couple months earlier. Parents were actually pretty cool about it. The car recovered, but always had a smell after that. It happens. You were a new driver and I imagine most people who drive in icy climates have lost control at least once. If I were them, I would have just been happy you weren't hurt. As a parent myself now, I agree wholeheartedly with your comment. At the time, I just felt like I should have known better and that I destroyed their car. My sister locked me out of the house. She was still inside. So I went around banging on all the doors, and she's ignoring me. I started pounding on her bedroom window, and my hand accidentally goes through the window. Over 10 years later and I still have a tiny scar on my hand. If I was your parents, I'd be more mad at the sister. Oh, she was, but being the older brother, I guess I should have handled the situation differently. LMAO. There was a small lizard trapped in our garage under a pile of wood, so I moved some of them so it could get out. I must have accidentally knocked over a larger plank in the process. That landed on my dad's car and went straight through the windshield. Lizard was fine though. Ah, well, that's all that matters. One time I snuck out of the house, and when I went to sneak back and the door was locked. We never locked the doors to the house, so I knew I'd been caught. Lived on a farm, so I just went up to the hayloft to sleep the rest of the night. 17 years old, had a party while the parents were out of town. I had to work the next day, but timed it so I would have plenty of time to clean before they got home that evening. Came home from work, the sprinklers are on and their car is in the driveway. Driving down my driveway, I was anxiety and fear personified. I walk in the house and my mom tells me, your dad had to leave before you got here, otherwise he was afraid of what he might do to you. Jesus Christ Almighty, you have been visited by the smart studying doggo. You'll be blessed with good grades only if you subscribe to Comment Awards and like the video.
PG.
On top, food chain, won't stop. New game, hot box that blue haze. One lock, 2 chains, no bras, 2 babes. Mic drop, new stage, lights in my rear view. 5 cops, full race, faster than a Tesla. They say I'm exhausted.